Welcome to 9394, a music podcast with me, Travis. I'm glad you joined me. I'm happy to be here. I really love doing this podcast. Do you need a distraction? I need distractions, like lots of them. Shit's fucking weird out there. But here it's always 1993 or 1994, and I am grateful for the escape. Soul Coughing was one of those bands that for me, I was certainly aware of for a very, very long time. It was hard not to be. They got a pretty strong cult following, I'd say. They're one of those bands that they have their loyal devotees. I don't know. Is there a way to say that? That's one of those words that, devotees, I think is what it is. But that's definitely one of those words that you read more than you say. You certainly don't say it on a podcast that you record and then put out into the world. Anyway, they're one of those bands that I was well aware of, but I just never ever really listened to them. I'd heard snippets, I'd heard them here and there, some singles and stuff, and it just didn't grab me, I guess. But Kandice Morrissette has come back to the show for the third time, and we are glad to have her. We being, the royal we, the editorial. And she had me take a look at the 1994 album Ruby Vroom. And you know what? I liked it. So here's our conversation about that album. Check it out.
You get the ankles and I'll get the wrists. You get the ankles and I'll get the wrists. You get the ankles and I'll get the wrists. You'll come down to this side. You get the ankles and I'll get the wrists. You get the ankles and I'll get the wrists. You get the ankles and I'll get the wrists. You'll come down to this side.
Hey.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Been a minute. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it has been a minute.
I see you're wearing your appropriate t-shirt. That is a Soul Coughing t-shirt, right?
Yes. It was either
Very
this or
cool.
the Rex Manning t-shirt, so I figured this would win it.
Is today Rex Manning Day?
The Tuesday was Rex Manning Day.
Okay. Well, happy late Rex Manning Day to you.
Yes. And to you. 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
New edition.
Oh, how cute. Looks just like a
Yeah.
cat I grew up with. What's her name or his name?
Her name's Rydia. She's also
Rydia?
Sassy Pants. Rydia, yep. Final Fantasy character, because that's how
Okay.
I roll with cat names. She
She's
does
lovely.
not like being held. She's a handful.
The best pets are the ones that don't want you to touch them.
Yes.
It's one of those things with cats. How many cats do you have now?
Just two. Unfortunately, Piggy passed in December, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah. And I was chilling for a while, but like my other cat got too depressed. I'm like, you need a friend. And so then I get like
Yeah.
Little Miss Sunshine, and I have this grumpy old man, and it just cracks me up. He's like, I don't like you. She's like, but I love you. She's too cute and wholesome for him.
Aw. It takes him a little while to adjust. I did the same thing when I lost my last dog, Rooney, and I got Mara. And Scruffy at first was like, "What the fuck is this? What's going on here?" But they've warmed up to each other. It took a good year or so.
Yeah, they moved up pretty quick. Like he didn't snuggle with my other cat, and they will snuggle each other.
Well, that's good.
And the brawling is quick and easy, and not actual brawling. It's more like, I'm done. You need to
Yeah.
leave. I'm overstimulated. You're too much.
You'll come down to this. Cashew toothpick stuck in the ground.
So you're wearing the Soul Coughing shirt. Which album are we doing today, Kandice?
We are doing Ruby Vroom by Soul Coughing, which turns 30 this year. Oh, no, 94. So it'll be 31
Okay.
this year. Yeah, so it's
It
94.
turns 31 this year. Okay, that's what I
Yes.
thought. Because usually, well, not usually, because this is your third time on the show, right? You did
Yes.
Sarah McLachlan and you did Tori Amos, right?
I did.
So a lot of times my guests, when they come on the third time, make the choice to like get outside of 93 and 94 and play around a little bit and like, do something from 95 or 92 or something. And you're like, nope, sticking with it because you really wanted to do this album.
Well, I
Sticking
mean,
with
it's,
it.
one of your questions is, what is the most underrated song? And I'm like, this entire whole album is underrated, that's for sure.
They're one of those bands that I've known people to like for a long time in my life, like a lot of people whose opinions I respect. But for some reason, I was really resistant to listen to them. I'd never really heard them before. I think Blue Eyed Devil was a single back in the day. I want to say there was there was a single or two that I would have like heard. But
Yeah.
other than that, like there's this, I got it here in my hand actually. There was this CD that came out in, I don't even know what fucking year. Who knows? It was a compilation soundtrack from Move On called Future Soundtrack for America. I remember REM was like a big part of it, if I recall. And what's his name? Mike Doughty or Mike Doughty?
Yeah, Mike Doughty.
Mike Doughty.
Yeah.
Okay, so Doughty is on this, and I guess I just didn't really like that song, and it was like my only real exposure to him. So I just didn't listen to it forever until recently. I'm like, well, shit, this is really good. It is underrated.
Yeah.
I've been underrating it without even giving it a chance. So
Yeah.
I'm real curious, how did you get into this? Because I mean, I should have back in the day, but somehow it just missed me.
Yeah, well, I was in marching band, and my friends, the music taste ranged from like everything in marching band, and there's just a whole bunch of us weirdos, and this entire album is weird. It's got like strange lyrics, it's got like a lot of like complicated lyrics, so it was fun for us to like mesmerize the song and try to sing it back and forth to each other. And it was just weird, and we were weird, and that just kind of melded together into like, hey, this is a great band, let's just sing this weird song.
That's great. I feel like there is something particular about this band that stuck out to me too on listening to it. And I make this comparison as a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
But like my whole life, whenever I was trying to describe indie rock or like alternative to somebody that was like unfamiliar with it, which less and less do I have to explain that to people as we've gotten older, but when I was younger, I guess, I would often be like, well, so it's hard to explain, but there's certain bands that just have their own sound that are distinct, but it's rock, but like nobody else plays. Sounds like them, so I'd like use like Built to Spill as an example, or I'd use Cake as an example. Like no one sounds like Cake. When I start listening to this, I'm like, well, shit, there's some comparisons that can be made especially between their singing styles, which this is a lot funkier and a lot like hip hoppier, and like where Cake goes like country western and kind of like looking backwards, this is a lot more like this is different. But there's some comparisons there to be made which surprised me, but I liked it too. I mean, like it's a pleasant surprise. Yeah,
and like it was almost kind of popular in the 90s. It was a band with an upright bass.
In this band, there's an upright bass?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. That's cool.
Yeah, if you listen, like I pick it out because we had upright basses in orchestra, so just like I know that sound. But like them, Ben Folds, and like even Bare Naked Ladies, there's like this whole, I wouldn't say even like renaissance, but like this whole section of like jazzier bands using the upright bass as compared, something fretless as compared to like the regular fretted bass. Or
Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, I believe, was also an upright bass. Okay, yeah, that was kind of a resurgence at that time. You're right, but they were definitely using it, Soul Coughing, using it in a way that, doing all of this in a way that is, again, not like Cake or like anyone else. It is still very much its own thing.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite song on this album?
Hard to pick, but I'd have to say Screenwriter's Blues.
Exits to freeways twisted like knots on the fingers. Jewels cleaving skin between breasts. Your Cadillac breathes 400 horses over blue lines. You are going to Reseda to make love to a model from Ohio whose real name you don't know. You spin like the Cadillac was overturning down a cliff on television. And the radio is on, and the radio man is speaking, and the radio man says
Screenwriter's Blues. That one's like a whole story. It's fun. It's like I'm the hero of the story.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason I like it so much. Is it's like it is telling a full story, and like you almost see yourself driving at 5 a.m. on a highway, listening to this radio man go on and on and on, and like what's going on and everything. It's just sort of like just puts you into a spot. But it's also like kind of like a very film noir vibe. It's very, despite it's I wouldn't say somber too, but it's like it's got a very bouncy bass and yeah, they're all getting stuck in my head right now. My interior CD player is skipping everywhere.
I like that it's, like kind of film noir-y. I get that. It's kind of sexy and party time, but it's also kind of dark and kind of brooding at the same time. Like, you're driving to go fuck this model and you're going to Reseda where all of these, the movie stars and like the studio lots are and stuff, which all sounds really cool and hip. You're listening to music and you're driving through the desert. That all sounds good, but at the same time, there's like this dark undertone to it.
Yeah, and that's, and this is like also one of the bands that ended up adding to my weird vocabulary, because they had this line, the teenagers who are aesthetically pleasing, in other words, fly. And that just stuck in my friend group. I'm like, wow, that is aesthetically pleasing. And someone else replied, in other words, fly. So it's just like, that is still in my friend group. People still say that and be like, oh, in other words, fly.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So like, I attribute that to part of my dying Victorian child vocabulary that I have to edit out in my work emails.
I think that he is a very talented lyricist. There's a lot to be excited about here on this album. And it's nonstop. I mean, like, it made me kind of think of Springsteen a little bit, and like early Springsteen, who would just ramble and go on, and like nobody else could possibly like cover some of that stuff, because like you have to be like so on point with the lyrics when they're like so wordy. And clearly Doty he's a really talented guy who doesn't quite rap, I guess. I mean, sometimes he does, but
I feel like it's kind of
different.
Yeah, the best I described it is like, they said they're self-proclaimed slacker jazz.
That's cool.
And I've added like stream of conscious lyricist, so it's instead of like words that come out, but he said like a lot of the times it's like, he'll be saying something and it creates a beat in the way he's saying something. Like down to this, it's like, you get the ankles, I'll get the wrists. Came from him being a bouncer at a club, and it's just like, you get the something and I'll get the list, so it just kind of like, he was like singing that back and forth to his coworker, and then he kind of morphed it into a song because that sort of cadence kind of drew him to it.
That's interesting. I like when an artist is drawing from their own life, which I guess most of them or all of us do. But there is something about the lyrics in this that are both at once grounded and feel very like personal and like they happen to him, and then other times it can be kind of like with Screenwriter's Blues, where it's more cinematic feeling and more narrative feeling.
Or if you get to like 5% Nation, where it's almost just like they did like 5% Nation and blank, and the blank always change, especially in live songs, where it's just kind of like, again, it's more about like almost like the sample songs and just fitting into that beat of the sample song to create something different. Yeah,
Cassioton Nation is a good song. I'm not going to make any pronouncements about my least favorite song on this album, but I will make two criticisms about moments in songs. Because overall, I like Cassioton Nation a lot. It's really fun. It's a sing-along kind of song. I like the kind of bouncing around in terms of topics and stuff. 5, 10, 15, 20, 20. Counting by fives is not lyrics. That's not good. That's bad. Terrible. Every time that comes on, I'm like, oh my God.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100.
No, but at the same time, it makes me think of Schoolhouse Rock. Like when I heard that, I'm like, I feel like I'm watching the Schoolhouse Rock video where they're doing by 3s or by 5s and by 10s, and like that's what it invoked in my brain at the time, and it still does.
It goes on for a while, and it happens like two or three times. I'm like, every time that came up, I'm like, all right, I know how to count. But I have a few complaints about the album, mostly praise, but I gotta be honest, and that is a song that kind of ground my gears a little bit. But overall, I do like the song. It's a good song, and it's fun.
Yeah, I think I kind of have like the same thing. There are songs that parts of the song I don't love, and then it shifts into something else that I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I love this part of the song, and not that I don't like the other part of the song, I think it's weird. Like Sugar-Free Jazz I really enjoy, but there's like some part of it where I'm just like, I like it when it gets into like the more jazzier parts of it, and you get like the weird sort of like haunting saxophones in there. But the beginning of it I don't love as much, so it's just like, I don't have a least favorite song, but just favorite parts of songs that I don't like as much. But then they change it.
So I did pick a favorite song from the album, and I went with Sugar-Free Jazz.
Normalize the signal and you're banging on Freon. Paleolithic Eon. Put the fake goatee on, and it booms as cool as sugar-free jazz. Schoolsy bombsy bombs. Schoolsy bombsy bombs.
In large part because of the opening, actually. I really like the beginning of it. I really like that kind of calming, soothing feel to the song. And then it kind of builds up, and not like to a huge crescendo, but the more it builds, the dancier and groovier and more fun it gets.
Yeah.
It goes from being kind of soothing into being a lot more funky. And I'm always a sucker for when a song kind of feels like there's two songs in one. And I do think that they accomplish that pretty well with Sugar Free Jazz. It's just a really good feeling song. It'd be a good summertime song.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, like, it's chilling on your porch music.
Yeah. Be good for outdoor cocktails, that kind of thing.
Outdoor cocktails, or, like as we call it, the porch pounder wine.
So yeah, it's definitely my favorite song on the album. I did have to struggle. I'll mention, I don't usually do this, but when there is this many songs, I'll mention later my second favorite when we get to your underrated. But before we get to that, as much as you love this album, you said that there's not a single song on here that you could pinpoint as your least favorite, but just least favorite moment. So are you saying that Sugar Free Jazz and that bit in the beginning is your least favorite moment of the album, so that's your least favorite song on the album?
It's hard to, like, it's just between that and Moon Sammy. Like,
okay.
Like those two, like, I think they're not bad songs, they're just a little weaker until it gets into, like, the breakdown.
Mm-hmm. Moon Sammy is like, I think that's a real feel-good kind of song, though. I mean, it's very upbeat. I have no idea what the fuck he's singing about, who Moon Sammy is, what's going on there. But it feels fun, and it also feels a little bit more of the era, because a lot of this album, despite my comparisons to Cake, I don't think really feels like super specifically 93, 94, the way some albums from that era do. This is a little bit more timeless.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's using a lot of samples, and then a lot of music today still uses a lot of samples. Like, I mean, they're doing it slightly differently.
Yeah.
I put it on, and, like, I don't feel like, because sometimes I'll listen to, like, some of my old CDs. I'm like, wow, this really feels like the time. We don't hear that guitar sound anymore. We don't hear this sound anymore, but we still are used to hearing samples of, like, of older songs, and it's not as jarring.
And there's some real creative sampling on here. To use that song, whatever, I don't know the name of it, but For Busta Beelzebub is so cool.
Get onto the bus that's gonna take you back to Beelzebub. Get onto the bus that's gonna make you stop going rub-a-dub. Get onto the bus that's gonna take you back to Beelzebub.
To use that classic kind of hellish, it's always weird with, like, when a sample doesn't resolve, because you're like, your brain wants it to resolve, but still, it's really creative the way that they take that bass line and funk it up and turn it all around. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, that's, like, definitely, like, a number 2 spot for me. Like that song is just, it's chaos. It's absolute chaos, and it's just fun to have that sort of chaos. Like, there's not an ethereal song on this album. There's nothing ethereal at all about this album.
But there is a little bit of hellishness here.
Oh yeah, there's a whole lot of hellishness. It's like nothing but, like, that song is just pure chaos, and I love sometimes just to sit in that chaos and be like, excellent. Like, I needed to have this insanity around me, just to be like, okay, life's normal. It's fine.
It's that body fun kind of hell, like the Squirrel Nut Zippers kind of hell, without being in the same genre. And that song, Busta Beelzebub, very much highlights that, but I do feel like that's one of the themes that weaves through this album, is that kind of, like, wild, abandoned, almost like hedonistic feel to the music.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you don't have a least favorite on the album. How about your underrated?
Underrated, really hard, but I kind of want to lean toward Two Dreams of Wichita. No, actually, you know what? It's Chicago Is Not Chicago. That's what it is.
Okay.
A man drives a plane into the Chrysler building. Saskatoon is in the room. A Pool's Bowl is in the room. Bennettsville is in the room. Palmyra is in the room. It's Chicago. It's not Chicago.
Those opening track, but it's probably it's hard for me to skip. Like it's a song I never skip because
Sure.
It's just like it's in there. It almost sets the scene because the story behind it cracks me up.
What's the story behind it?
Lack of a better word, he was high and in Chicago and having this whole thing of like everything outside of my body is Chicago, but everything that's inside my body is not Chicago. So it was a whole thing of like, is Chicago? It's not Chicago. It's Chicago. You know, it's just sort of like imagining someone just walking around to Chicago going like, that's Chicago. This isn't Chicago. And so I went to go see them in Chicago. It was great
cool.
because they ended up playing that song. And I'm like, this is kind of full circle because now you are technically in Chicago, but you're not Chicago.
And it's a really strong opening.
It is a strong opening.
Yeah, like you say, like it sets the tone for the whole album to come. Because there's so much variation in the album on one hand in terms of genre and playing with it, and also there's a very cohesive feel to it all too, because it's like it's all Soul Coffee and it's all very distinctly them. But yeah, I feel like that song is a good introduction to this album for sure. Is this her first full length?
Yes.
That's what I thought, their debut. So this would be, yeah, it kind of announces them as a band in a lot of ways too. Yeah, it's a good song. I considered it making it my second favorite since I decided kind of early on with an hour-long album that I would pick a second favorite here. But my second favorite is one you wanted to talk about anyways, which is True Dreams of Chicago. I think that song is so good. It's so, again, calming, very soothing, very chill song, which obviously I have kind of a preference on when it comes to the variations of Soul Coffee, and like the chiller stuff is what I like more, but it's a really, really good song.
Signal got lost through the satellite, got lost in the ride up to the plunge down. Man sends the ray of the electric light, sends the impulse through the air down to home. And you can stand on the arms of the Williamsburg Bridge crying, hey man, well this is Babylon. And you can fire it on a bus to the outside world, down to Louisiana, you can take her with you. I've seen the reins of the real world come forward on the plain. I've seen the Kansas of your sweet little myth. You never seen it, no, I'm half sick on the drinks you mixed.
Yeah, no, it's one of the few I feel like he sings on as much as he sings, which is not much. Sort of like sing-speaking.
Yeah.
And then like the breakdown in that one is just still, it's still mellow. You know, even though it's like, you know, it's a little heavier. And then they just go right back into like the chiller stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like sugar-free jazz where it feels like it's going to shift gears a little bit, but then it just goes back into what it was. But it's not very jarring, you know what I mean? Like that switch, because you are kind of waiting for it to come to something, to get to some sort of head. But when it gets there, it's not like you're stuck there, and it's not like you're divorced from the rest of the song, because it brings you right back into it.
Yeah.
Did you ever get a chance to see this band live? Wait, you already said that.
Yeah,
in Chicago.
I saw them. Yeah, I saw them in Chicago last September. It was very much I need to go see them. They came through when I was in high school, and I either just probably couldn't afford the tickets, and or there was a band thing at the same time, and my mom was like, "You're in band, you're going to band, you're not skipping band for this." I'm like, "All right." So I missed it then, but it was a great concert. You know, like kind of very chill, but it's, you know, it's nice to be in a room with people who, like, you know, everyone in here likes this band, like, and you get that feeling like everyone here are fans.
Mm-hmm.
And they did like my favorite thing I've ever heard a band do, which is like, this is the second to last song that we're going to play, and then we're going to go off the stage and pretend to not come back, and you guys are going to cheer for us, and then we're going to show back up and play 2 more songs and go home. And I'm like, thank you for this itinerary, so I can plan out the rest of my evening. I appreciate it.
Just eliminating the pretense. I appreciate that.
Yeah, just give me. I'm like, thank you for, you know, like, I'm too old to be like guessing if they're going to be coming back or not. Like, okay, we have 2 more songs.
Right.
Thank you.
Regardless of how loud you clap, we're coming back. Just we need to take a bathroom break or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Which I understand. Like, you're on the stage for an hour, you gotta go.
Totally.
It was still a great show. Like, the samples were very, like, on point. Like, I felt, like, not in the way, like, I felt like I was listening to the album. But, when you sometimes hear a song live, it's missing parts of the song that you're expecting to be there. And I felt like it was all just right there.
Very cool. I bet they put on a good show.
Yeah, no, it's a great time. And, everyone's singing along. And it's just like, I hate going to a show where it's just kind of like, there's not as many fans there. It's just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to go, or I got these tickets, or we're season pass holders and we don't even like the band and we're here.
Yeah.
It's just like when you go in like a smaller place and everyone there is really into the band, it makes it way more fun.
I have another compliment I want to pay before I deliver my last criticism of the album, which is there's a lyric in here in a song that is referencing the great city of Detroit.
Yep.
City of Motors.
And I hear a rumbling. I hear transmission grind. I bear witness. I have the clutch now. 3 times start on the turnpike. From the Motor City to the city of Dis. They traced his travel by his credit card. No sleep, smokes, and he's nauseous. No sleep, smokes, and he's nauseous.
This line, he flips an ash like a wild loose comma.
Yes.
That's one of those lines. It's just like, oh fuck. I mean, it's not like it strikes me to my core, like it's something, like it's so introspective or whatever, but it's just such a great line. Like, that just makes me want to be like, shit, does this guy write books? Because he's a good damn writer.
Like, he's written poetry, I know for sure, but like, yeah, like that is like one of those lines that just sticks out of like, I can see that. Like, my brain paints that picture.
Yes, exactly. And the whole song, again, it's a really cool song, too. Another one that's telling the story and that's very narrative driven. You, the listener, are not the protagonist on this one.
Yeah.
But it's still a very cool song. And that one also reminds me of another band. Actually, a lot of this reminds me of another band that sounds nothing like Cake. And I want to pay an even bigger compliment because it's one of my favorite bands. Some of this reminds me of a band called Cop Shoot Cop that was around the same era. Very obscure New York band, but like was big on horns and big on like kind of dark narratives and that kind of stuff, and had some of the same kind of like talky, singy way of delivery. So for me to compare them to that is a high compliment in my world, because I love Cop Shoot Cop. And this song, City of Motors, stuck out to me as being particularly similar, or at least comparable. Mm-hmm. But that line, really stuck out to me as a brilliant line.
Yeah, no, it's a great line. And like, well, they're also from New York, so like it sounds like they probably might have been doing this around the same time.
They were, and it made me wonder. Like, I wonder if they cross paths. Not like like they necessarily influence each other, but I imagine there'd be some overlap in fandom.
Mm-hmm.
So my criticism, and this is gentle criticism, because it almost was my favorite song, Janine, the last song. Almost my favorite song on the album, because on one hand, this is the song that is most my speed on the album, because like I'm a pretty chill acoustic kind of guy, and it's a really beautiful song, and I love everything happening in it, except for this drunken lady on a fucking answer machine in the background who clearly was recording vocals that she had no intention of generations of people hearing it for decades to come. Every time I hear her like it's like I'm hearing something that I love and is beautiful, and at the same time I'm hearing something that makes me go, fucking stop it. So it's a complicated listen for me.
Yeah. So that was Mike Doty's girlfriend at the time. He had her, this was intentional, he had her go to a payphone and sing on his answering machine, and then brought the answering machine to the studio and played from the answering machine, recorded it off of there to make it sound as like,
yeah, that's what it sounds like.
gritty and out there as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea of it. I
Yeah.
do. I just don't think that it works because she's so off key from what the rest of the song is.
Yeah, yeah. It's very much like, I get what he's trying to do there, but like it is very jarring.
Sleep by the blue light of Live at 5. Then as I drifted off, I heard Al Roker say to me, dial 1-900 4JANINE. Janine, I drink you up.
The live version, I had like a couple like MP3s of the live version, was like very differently, but he'll sing like part of the song himself instead of like the recording, like he does it live.
Oh, okay.
So
Maybe I'll check out the live version of it on YouTube or something.
yeah, you might like that a little more.
Yeah, I mean, I really thought it was like, when it starts, at first I'm like, this is gonna be my favorite song. The first time I heard it, I'm like, this is great. And then, like, you know, the more she kept singing, I'm like, man, this is a little much for me. But again, it's avant-garde, it's creative, it's different. I can't say I've heard anyone else do that exactly. I mean, somewhat. I mean, Sublime did that on Robin the Hood, sort of. It wasn't an answer machine thing, but they would loop like conversations and people singing, that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, I've heard it done, but like not a ton from the era. And I respect it, even if I don't necessarily like it. And I think it makes sense to make it the last song on the album because it's a pretty long album. And if you want to turn it off by then, you're not going to feel too bad about it.
Well, I remember, I think Goldfinger also did that, one of their songs.
On Hang-Ups,
yeah. Yep. Yeah, like something, it's something that people were doing, but it wasn't like, you know, out there.
Usually it'd be like someone talking. I remember like Twilight Singers did that. Like it'd be like you'd hear like someone's actual voice message like delivered like maybe in the background of the song, but it wouldn't be like singing, I guess is the difference. But again, good song overall.
Yeah. Or like the Filter Crystal Method crossover of like Can't You Trip Like I Do. That's like there's a whole woman singing during that song as well, like doing like the same thing. It's like someone. Oh, really? Yeah, that like I think someone either in one of the bands got that as a phone message from like a fan or something that's kind of creepy. So like, let's make it a song.
So yeah, I mean it does make more sense from the era too, because we were all still using answer machines back then. So like,
yeah,
it's not like people don't leave voicemails now, but you never really hear that anymore. But the trend is gone, maybe. But again, that's a somewhat minor complaint. To hear an album that I was a little resistant to for whatever reason and really have only 2 minor complaints and overall think that it's a really, really strong album that I will listen to again, I think that's a win. That's a win for me.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely like something I'm like, if I just want to be like, if I have random people over, like, what do I listen to? Like, we put on this weird stuff from the 90s.
Yeah, I was thinking that good party music for sure.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that you could tune out or the kind of thing you could zero in on. In either way, you know, be happy.
You know, tune out, going at good singing bits, tune back out, you know.
Right. Do you have anything else to say about this album before we move on to the last questions?
I really enjoyed this album. I didn't get as much into the other albums as well. Like, they kind of, like, they had one hit single, and it was on their 3rd album. And if you listen to that single and, like, compare it to this, there's, like, a huge difference. You know, it's a little more guitar forward. It's like they've got less, you know, a little less sampling is still in there, but just like watching them like progress, you know, become like a little less jazzy, a little more alternative. It's interesting the progression to go through the other albums. So I just really gravitated toward this one against the other ones.
Maybe that single was what I heard, if that was their biggest song, and maybe that's why.
It'd be Circles, and that Circles sounds nothing like what's on this album.
Because it would have been pretty early on, so maybe that's what did it. Not sure, but I'm glad that you chose it. I really am because, well, for one, it's an album from 1993, 1994, so I want to pretty much cover all of those, but especially ones that have a fan base. And there is a pretty strong cult following for this band. There always has been. I know quite a few people in my life who just fucking love this band, and particularly this does seem to be the album when I talked to them too.
Yeah.
I had a couple people interested in doing it. That kind of came up, but didn't pull the trigger, so I'm glad you did, so we can get it under the belt here at 93, 94.
Yeah, I'm here to keep things weird.
As a former band kid should.
Yes. I have one setting.
As usual, I have some trivia here for you at the end. It is based on what I think is one of the very clear themes from this album. Do you think you could guess, like, what are some of the themes for this album in your mind? See if we're on the same page.
I think there's some sort of like just a hint of like a struggle with sobriety. Sort
Okay.
of, like get onto the bus that'll take you back to Beelzebub in the sense of like, like falling off the wagon sort of situations.
Okay. That's deeper than I was looking, but you've had 30 years with the album. I've had a couple weeks. The big theme that stuck out to me is geography. This dude likes to shout out cities more than any band I think I've ever heard ever. Back when I was in bands, I used to love to insert city names into my lyrics because I always felt like it kind of grounded them and kind of like, I don't know, it just made it feel more real or something. I mean, I remember I had a layover at a Pittsburgh airport once and fucking like wrote a song about it because it just sounded good to me. So like, I really like his jumping around all over the place with city names and that kind of stuff. But in particular, this album gave me a quiz. I basically did this quiz recently on another version of this on my recent episode where I talked Beastie Boys and I made it about New York. But you're going to play a game called Is Chicago Is Not Chicago? Which,
oh boy.
I mean, it's right there, right? So I'm going to name some famous like landmarks or neighborhoods or buildings, that kind of thing. And you tell me if it is Chicago or if it is not Chicago.
Okay. So I can't phone a friend because I have friends in Chicago. I can ask this. Go for it. Let's go.
All right. Number one is the Chrysler Building.
That is in Chicago.
That is in New York City.
That's in New York. No, you're right. I got it confused with Willis Tower, which was the Sears Tower for ages. Yeah.
That would be my next question. So you got Willis Tower correct.
Yeah.
Chrysler Building. I totally thought, I'm like, listening to Is Chicago Is Not Chicago? I'm like, yeah, the Chrysler Building. It's in Chicago. And then I looked it up.
Yeah,
like, no, it's not.
And that's just what happened in my brain. It's just like, yeah, it's in the Is Chicago song.
But you did know the proper name for the Sears Tower, which I did not. It is Willis Tower, so you definitely get that point. That's impressive.
Well, I've heard that's very much like a Pine Knob issue, where, Pine Knob turned into another name, which we will not name, for 20 years, and now it's back to being Pine Knob. But
again.
The locals were very stubborn, like, oh no, it's Pine Knob still. We're not changing the name of it locally.
So it was Sears Tower, then became Willis Tower, but everyone still calls it Sears Tower. Is that what it is?
According to people I talked to, if you're a good Chicago person, it's still the Sears Tower.
Okay, well, it's still the Sears Tower to meet then. I was mistaken. I thought maybe it had always been the Willis Tower or something. I don't know. I guess I don't know my Chicagoland history. All right, so you got one that is Chicago, but you did not get the is not Chicago. Let's try another one. Calumet Heights.
I feel like that is?
That is Chicago. You are correct.
Okay.
Chicago is divided into 77 neighborhoods, parts, proper little cities within the greater Chicagoland area, and one of those is Calumet Heights. All right, the Keeper of the Plains. It's a statue.
Oh. I want to say it's not Chicago.
That is not Chicago. That is in Wichita.
Oh, I have two dreams of Wichita.
The Persephone Theater.
Oh. I feel like it's not.
That is not it. That is in Saskatoon.
Oh, that's Saskatoon's in the room.
Millennium Park.
That's in Chicago.
That is 100% in Chicago. All right, you're doing good. The John K. King Used and Rare Bookstore.
Is Chicago?
That is in the City of Motors. That is one of the biggest used bookstores in the world, and it is in Detroit, Michigan.
That's the one in Eastern Market.
Yeah, it's right by Eastern Market. Yeah.
Yeah. You can take a point off my Detroit card. I'm like, that's familiar. I'm like, why is it familiar? I'm like, is it familiar because I saw it in Chicago, or is it not?
It was supposed to be the freebie, but.
Yeah.
Cloud Gate.
Cloud Gate. Oh, that's the Bean. That's in Chicago.
That's the Bean. That is Chicago. Yep. Very good.
Bean's actually.
That is the Bean. And the last question is Griffith Observatory.
That's not Chicago?
That is not Chicago. That is Los Angeles. That's a famous landmark in like Rebel Without a Cause and La La Land and Yes Man, a bunch of movies. Very good. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 9. That is a very good score. You have more than passed. You've passed with flying colors. Good job. You are Chicago.
I am Chicago. Presently not Chicago, but you know. When I do go to Chicago, that song is stuck in my head.
Oh my God! Next time I go to Chicago, I'm 100% playing that song.
Yeah, you should. You should. It's a great soundtrack for Chicago.
And he references Chicago again in Down to This.
Yeah, you seen it on a lot of the cities that were in the album to begin with. I'm like, oh, that's clever. Look at you, getting all clever.
I thought, well, if I'm gonna go with not Chicago, it makes sense to do other references from the album because there's so many. It was fun. It was fun. I tried to find Reseda, but apparently there's nothing to Reseda but Warner Brothers Studios and that kind of stuff, which would be pretty easy to figure out. Not Chicago.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad you came back. I appreciate it a whole bunch. I hope you come back again and again in the future. You can, if you want to get outside of 93, 94, you can, or not. It's up to you. Whatever floats your boat. But let me know if you want to come back.
Yeah, I'll start fishing around, seeing if anything else pops in.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming back on. We'll talk again soon.
Yeah. Have a good one.
You too. I'm very glad that Kandice came back on the show. She is both super cool and very easy to talk to and knowledgeable about this shit that she likes. So I hope to have her back on later. If you are listening to this show and wondering what you got to do to be on the show yourself, the answer is not much. Email me. My email address is 9394podcast@gmail.com. You could do any album you want to from 1993 to 1994 that I haven't already done. And if you're looking for inspiration, this is the part where I usually try and mention a band that's kind of connected to or tangentially similar to the band that I did an episode about. But man, Soul Coughing is a pretty unique band. So I'm just throwing a fucking dart at the wall here. And as a suggestion, as a possibility, how about the 1994 album Park Life from Blur? Remember this song, Girls and Boys? Blur went on to do big things. And this wasn't even their first album. They also had a 1993 album we could talk about. But it doesn't have to be Blur. It could be any band, any musician from the era, any soundtrack that I haven't already done. Just hit me up, 9394podcast@gmail.com. I'm also on Blue Sky. That's the only social media I regularly really use anymore. And by regularly, I mean I check in once a week. Sometimes I check in on my personal life or personal thoughts at this point of the show, and I'm gonna not do that so much this time. Let's just say that life is sometimes hard and weird, and sure I'm grateful for the people I have in my life that I can count on. And I hope that you have people that you can count on too. Reach out to them, stay connected to them, put in that effort, put in that work, even if you feel like it's not your turn. Like you did the work last time everybody got together, or the last time you talked to such and such friend. Do the work anyway. It's not work that you'll regret doing. And on that note, I bid you adieu. Please, do the whole rate and review thing. That's always appreciated. On Spotify, you can give us 5 stars. Us. I don't know who we are. Give this podcast some love if you would. I'd appreciate it. It means a lot to me when you do. That's it. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye. '93 '94, a music podcast with Travis Roy, is a labor of love. It is not and never will be monetized. Please don't sue.